17 races of the 1UP Nitro National Series have brought us to this moment, the regular season finale here at the Old Spice Speedway in Sturgeon Bay, Wisconsin, for 30 laps of racing action here. For our Nitro National Series drivers, this is it, the final chance for 6 drivers to punch their ticket to the playoffs for 2022. And we have a new face in the Nitro National broadcast booth for today's race. After a long string of races, we've had Duke Ansack with us. He's got the night off, so we're joined today by Ryan Griffin, who had a strong run in the Turbo Truck Series race yesterday. We're glad to have him with us. And for this race, well, there's not much to it. These guys know what they have to do, and they got to perform on the track if they're going to have any hope of making the 12-driver postseason.
Yeah, I'll be honest. I mean, it's pretty much I'm here because I heard there was free food. But besides the point, it's cool to see these guys because I know these guys work hard. You see them in the garage area each week when the companion events run, and they work just as hard as you see some of the cup guys or some of the 1UP guys work. So it'll be interesting to see how these guys perform tonight. You know, this is you lock in tonight for the playoffs, and everybody wants to go into that playoffs with momentum. You don't want to go in and kind of stumble your way in. You want to go in and establish, hey, I'm the one you got to watch as we go into the playoffs. And to be on a road course here is going to be even more of a challenge to get some momentum to build it into the playoffs.
Absolutely, as we can now look at the starting lineup for today's 30-lap race, and boy, have the players in this game risen to the occasion. As Cody Goforth moves to take pole position, he is the 12th man in currently, 12th out of 12 that could make it in. He's on pole today. Could we see him get his first career win and lock himself into the playoffs here? Nikki Martinez lines up alongside him. She is currently the first driver out of the playoffs, so hopefully a strong run from her today will boost her into the playoffs as well. Alex Verjeperub, a noted road course racer himself. He's got a bunch of road course wins already. He lines up third. And Aaron Hall, he's the second man out, and he lines up fourth. So a lot of big names starting at the front of the field. You got Alexa Lucian up here. You got Ryan Caggiano, who's been the consistency king this season, lining up 10th. Zachary DeLillo, he's guaranteed a spot in the playoffs. He's going to try and do whatever he can to help his teammate get in as well. A lot of big stories to keep our eye on, but the big one has to be the 3 drivers at the front trying to punch their ticket to the postseason. As the field makes its way into the final hairpin, Cody Goforth's going to lead us through the final turn and to the green flag of this race. And the regular season finale for the 1UP Nitro National Series is underway. Goforth off to a massive start down this through the bridge and towards turn 1. Cody's got a huge lead, but Alex Verjeperub in that 3 car critically jumped ahead of Nikki Martinez and up into second place. So I think Alex is going to be Goforth's biggest challenger in this race if we can see any overtaking for the lead, which isn't easy on a road course, but it's proven to be far from impossible to today.
Yeah, this track has got a good history to it. You know, it's hosted a lot of regional races here, and I remember even racing an old modified race here years ago, and this is a pretty fun little track, but pretty much, yeah, it's a matter of once you get the lead, it seems like it's hard to get to the leader. So we'll see if Goforth can hang on and clinch his spot today. Obviously, he's doing himself a load of good here because he's going to come around to lead the first lap. But he's got a hungry 3 car behind him that wants to his presence or wants to make their presence known. So
yeah, Cody Goforth, he did lead lap 1. That is an extra bonus point for him. And that is very important. He needs every point he can get to make his way into the playoffs this year. He's doing everything right so far. He's scoring the maximum, but there's still a lot of racing left to go, and a pit stop still to make as well. And a lot of action can take place in and out of the pit lane here because the fall off is pretty high, so you're going to want to pit before your rivals and get out ahead. We expect this race to be split in half. About lap 15 or 16, you come in and get your fuel and tires and come back out. But you can see Alex Verjeperub in this 3 car is not leaving Goforth alone. They're starting to distance themselves from third place Martinez. Todd Hemler up into the 4th spot. Aaron Hall back to 5th, already 2.2 seconds off the lead.
yeah, on a road course, it's all about trying to be more. You see it more defined on road courses than ovals, but it's all about being as consistent as you can be and not make mistakes. And right now, that's what Goforth is trying to do. But he does have that 3 car that's been all over him so far. But again, the problem with the road course is that you have to pretty much set up your moves because passing is hard to do. And this track has kind of a reputation for being hard to pass on. But we'll see if what the 3 car can do with Goforth here. And going back to what you said about pit stops and the tire wear, you want to try to get in before everybody because you want to try to get the advantage on a track that has real rough tire wear. You want to have the advantage of the fresh tires as soon as you can, but you don't want to get it too early that when you get to the end of the run, you lose that advantage and suddenly you're the one on the worn tires versus everybody else who's on a little bit fresher tires. So it's going to be a matter. Well, it'll be interesting because that pit stop pretty much could determine who wins and loses this race, depending on when they pit and where they are running in relation to each other. And actually, the 3 actually lost a little ground there as he falls into the clutches of Martinez.
Yeah, Alex ran wide in that one hairpin. Oh, and we've had some contact further in the pack. We got one sitting on pit road already, and it's last week's winner, Santiago Alvarez, in the 98. He is now exiting the pits after losing a back bumper. He's had a bit of a collision with another car. We'll see what happened later on, but he's going to cycle out into last, probably a lap down. So Alvarez's race now ruined because he's going to have to make a second stop because there is no way he can make 25 laps on a tank of fuel here.
And of course, what also kind of helps is where pit road is here. Pit road is kind of in a unique spot on this racetrack. It's basically in a little bit of a tunnel spot where it's off the racetrack to the right and under a little bit of a bridge. So you can lose a lot of ground in pit road when you have to pit for an issue, but obviously if you got crash damage, you got more issues at that point than just where you are on pit road in relation to where the leaders are.
Absolutely. So after the absolute high of winning at Las Vegas to the low of now running last here at Old Spice Speedway, Santiago Alvarez has a lot of work to do to make up ground. You see him in 42nd place, 1 lap down. But now the focus is back on the front, and Alex Verstappen has gained on Cody Goforth. And Alex runs wide again in that very same corner. And that's going to allow Martinez to close back up. Martinez trying to make the playoffs as well, and so far she's doing as good a job as she can. She'd like to get around that 3 car and get back into second, but Martinez just doing everything she can to join her teammates Caggiano and Michaels in the postseason.
It's interesting because it almost seems what's happening with the 3 is that he'll get to the back bumper of Goforth, get into that corner, and he gets close, but it's almost as if he either tries too hard to get into the corner and it just washes up on exit, or it's just for some reason the nose of that car just slides out from under him when he gets into that last hairpin, that last 180-degree corner. It's weird because it's obvious the 3 has got the speed to keep with the 01. He just can't seem to set himself up to make the pass, which is, again, it's very rough to do on road courses. So you got to try to pick your battles and try to set up people as much as you can without giving up too much time, which the 3 is kind of on a rubber band at this point. Like, he'll get close and then have that moment in the hairpin, lose that time, and then have to chase that time back down.
Yeah, but
it looks like he's going to try to make another charge maybe here.
Yeah, if there's anybody who can challenge this 01, it's that 3 car. Remember, this is the same driver that put an absolute whipping on the field at the Indianapolis road course earlier this season, where he took the lead and had a massive margin of victory at the end. So if there's anyone who knows how to win on the road, it is this 3 car of Alex Verstappen, who again runs wide through that corner. That one spot looks to be his weakness here. He wants that clean air on the nose of that Chevrolet. He just can't get it right now off the nose of that. And it looks like we've had Ricky Freeman Jr. come in and out of the pits with an issue of his own. This is a disaster for the 91 team, who entered today 11th in points. As things stand right now, he would fall out of the playoffs completely. A disaster for Ricky Freeman Jr., and he's going to have to pit again in this race.
Yeah, it makes you wonder what might have happened there, because they, again, 11th in points. If you're pitting this early, you had to have some sort of, there had to have some sort of issue there to bring him in that early.
Yeah, so for Freeman now, he's got to hope that he can stretch his stuff out for 21 laps. I don't know if he'll be able to do it or not, and if he can't, that might be the end of his championship bid for this season. But back up front, Cody Goforth starting to stretch his legs a little against Alex Shepard. The gap now growing all the time, and Martinez still keeping the 3-car honest through the final hairpin here. This is going to be a very interesting situation because if, for example, Alex Forget-Barub or Nicky Martinez or even Todd Hemler, if they were to pit before Goforth, they would easily jump him on the racetrack. So they got to think about, at Team Dayspring in that 01 car, they got to think about when to make this move to pit road. They ideally want to do it as soon as possible, but like you said, they don't want to do it too soon and risk not having enough tires for the end of the race.
Yeah, and the 3 continues to suffer that same. And that's why I said I don't think it's so much that Goforth to stretch the lead. I think this 3-car keeps you up banding. He'll run down the 1, get close enough to him, but as we've been saying, when he ducks out to get the clean air to the nose of his car, the car takes off in the hairpin. So I almost hate to say it, but if they want to make a move on the 01, they might have to not do it down in that corner. They might have to try to get close on another spot on this track, like the other 180-degree corner here on the other end of the track, and see if they can get underneath them there as opposed to doing it the last corner.
Yeah, Alex is doing whatever he can to try and get it around, as we see the 57 of Nate Champion making his Nitro National Series debut. You see he's got a little damage to the back end of that Diamondback Motorsports Ford driving for Giannis Turzich this week. But as things run right now, Goforth's lead is about 0.4 of a second. He's got Alex pretty comfortably behind him. What Goforth now needs to focus on is when he's going to come to pit road, and he needs this stop to be absolutely perfect. Otherwise, he might have to fight from behind for the second half of this race.
And as I pretty much speak from experience of seeing it in the truck races I've run this year and the 1-Up Superstar races I commentated, just because you see a dominant driver here, in this case, Goforth has pretty much led every lap since the drop of the green. But we've seen this before. Dominant drivers, or people dominate early, and then something happens to them late that takes them out of it. So I've said this before on the 1-Up broadcast, but if you're Goforth in that 01 team, you're just trying to make sure you get ready for this pit stop. You make sure you have a solid stop. Don't want to make any mistakes. And watch when you come versus everybody else, If you come the same time as everybody, then okay, you're looking good, but it's just, you have to be careful right now. You've got yourself in a position now where you can win this race. You just don't want to take yourself out of it.
Yeah, as those two continue to battle for the lead, this is the fastest car on the racetrack right now, Ricky Freeman Jr. in 40th place. He's now faster than everybody around him. He's gotten past Martinez and Todd Hemler. He's going to try and unlap himself from these two. If he can do that and stretch his stuff for, honestly, way longer than anyone should be able to, it could be a salvageable day for Ricky Freeman Jr. It's just going to take a lot of effort from him. On the racetrack, behind the wheel, it's going to take a lot from him. But he's shown he's been able to stand up to the pressure before. He led every lap at Bristol. He had a strong run at Las Vegas. This 91 team is championship worthy, but he's got to prove it here today, as he's right on the back of this 3-car.
Yeah, but what kind of sucks for the 91 bunch is, and what kind of sucks for anybody that has an issue here, because of this being a road course, if we have incidents here, it's not necessarily going to necessitate a full course caution, which you'd normally see on an oval. You'll have local yellows, as they call them, or yellows for that particular section of the track. So it's very likely that this race will go green all the way to its conclusion, and if you're Freeman, who's a lap down, you're trying to make up that time as much as you can. Now, what helps Freeman out here is he is on significantly I think it was about 9-10 lap fresher tires than the rest of these guys. So that does help, and I think that's why he is one of the fastest cars on track at the moment. So that does kind of help to some extent. But again, when you're mired back in 40th and you need at this point every point you can get, It's just sad to see somebody who's had a good season to this point. You know, one bad race could possibly take you out of it.
And that may very well be the case for this 91 Finish Line Motorsports group here tonight. But so far, so good for Cody Goforth. He's led every lap so far. If he can lead this lap, he's guaranteed at least a share of the bonus point for the most laps led. But we're in the pit window now, and I fully expect a bunch of people to start hitting the pit lane very soon in this race. And there he goes. Alex Vergepperoux hits pit road. Aaron Hall's going to come with him. Goforth critically stays on the racetrack with Nicky Martinez. So the undercut has been triggered by Alex Vergepperoux. Alexa Luchon hits pit road. Keon Daly, Autumn Koger, they hit pit road. This has set off a chain reaction. Goforth has to pit this next lap around.
At the same time, it's got me thinking here too, which would also be kind of a smart play when you think about it. Goforth knows that if he leads at least one more lap, he's guaranteed those bonus points for leading the most laps. And those bonus points, as somebody who's sitting right now, he's sitting basically on the bubble. Those bonus points could go a long way. So this could be a strategy play a little bit to stretch it maybe a lap longer, just so you can be sure to lock up those guaranteed points versus trying to go off, maybe finishing position. But yeah, they are coming in now, so
yeah, everybody who didn't pit on the last lap, they're all coming in on this lap. Glenn Mixon looks like he pitted early, and he is now falling a lap down. He will get his lap back, but he'll probably have to pit again. As now, yeah, you see the stampede now coming down the pit lane. Focusing now, as we cycle back through the rest of the back markers, there is Alex Vergepperoux. We'll see where he cycles out in relation to Cody Goforth, because this is going to be the battle for the lead and essentially for the win. And Goforth's already guaranteed at least a share of that most laps led bonus. So he's got to do everything in his power to stay ahead of this 3-car. Here's the moment of truth right here. There's Goforth. He's exiting the pits, and he's cooked it way too hard out of the pits, scraped the wall coming out of the pit lane. That could have cost him the lead. It did cost him the lead of this race. Alex Vergepperoux through to the lead on lap 17.
Of course, the other thing they got to be worried about now at that 01 is how much damage did clipping that pit wall do to that car? Did it really significantly change the handling of the car? Right now, Goforth has at least a, first, second place, or at least a top 2 car here, so. But we don't know how much damage was done when they just clipped the wall just now, so we'll have to wait and see if anything develops later on here in the latter half of this run and the latter half of this race that could affect them aerially and could cost him positions on track.
Yeah, he pushed it way too hard on the outlap, and that may cost him the win. But if as things run right now, he would still lock into the playoffs. I think Cody Goforth, he's going to give it a try to get back past this 3-car, but if he can't, he's got to focus on the big picture. Stay in the position to make the playoffs, because remember, you have Aaron Hall right behind you in that pink and white number 7, Nicky Martinez behind them in the 25. These are cars that Goforth has to beat if he's going to make the postseason, and so far, he's doing that. As you see Alex Vergepperoux running off into the sunset here.
I was going to say, the thing that works in Goforth's favor right now, outside of the 3-car, who is currently leading at the moment, the 2 guys behind him that are chasing him for that bubble spot, they have not led a lap. So Goforth has the bonus points on those 2. So honestly, if it comes down to where he's contesting those guys, he could honestly probably let them go and still have enough points to make it in because of those bonus points. That's something that his crew needs to keep in mind. He doesn't necessarily need to get himself wrecked racing these guys. He doesn't have to race them as hard as he thinks he has to. But at the same time, you still want to maintain as best you can at this point, so you don't have to rely on those.
But here's the thing. Second place in any given Nitro National race gives out 5 more points than a third place finish, and a win gives 5 more than a second. So finishing high up the running order pays big dividends, and for that reason alone, I believe Cody Goforth really does not want to give up the second place to Aaron Hall or anybody else, because if he does that, that's 5 points down the drain, and he might not be able to get those back. As we look back now through the rest of the field, you see Keon Daly in 9th. His title hopes are on the ropes right now. And Zane Grayson in this 59 car. He's not in contention for a playoff spot, but he rounds out the top 10 currently. An impressive job from this young rookie, filling in for the injured Austin Holloman after that crash at Las Vegas last week. Grayson doing a great job in his substitute role. He'll be in this car for at least this race and the next race at Nashville, and we expect him to be back in the 99 for the rest of the season after that. But Grayson doing a great job in the top 10, being a bit of a support character in this race, as the main characters up front dice it out for position and for playoff spots.
Yeah, but pretty much as we pretty much saw, roles reversed after the pit stop, but pretty much as we saw at the start of the race, or from the start of the race, once the leader gets out there, it's pretty hard to get to him and to pass him on a road course. Again, I'm normally not a road course commentator, and I personally, if you ask my opinion, I think we need to bulldoze all these tracks and kill them with fire. But road courses do present a unique challenge for these drivers, and it's kind of cool to see these guys and how they adapt to running on these types of tracks. And evidently, you got to tip your hat to that 3 strategy, the team and the strategists and the pit crew, and they pretty much did what they had to do there through that pit stop, and it got him the lead, and so far he's checked out to almost a 3-second lead on Go Forth. And poor Cody is sitting in that car wondering what could have been at this point. I mean, if he just, I don't know if he would have beat the 3 car off pit road, even if he did take it easier, but that damage he got leaving pit road has certainly not helped him since.
No, it certainly has not. And now, but he is still maintaining competitive speed and staying ahead of Aaron Hall, which is what he's probably shifted his focus now to doing. He knows he's probably not going to catch the free car at this point in time unless the free loses a massive amount of time each lap, which probably won't happen. But for Cody Goforth, this is his moment to prove that he belongs in the playoffs. He's only had 4 top 10s this season, all of which have been top 5s. As you see, Ricky Freeman Jr., he makes his second stop in this race, comes back out behind Alex Vajepru to go back a lap down.
Technically, it's the stop, the single stop he would have made. Obviously, he had to make the extra stop early for whatever reason. He had to make that early stop. And I said it before with this 91. It's unfortunate that you have some great runs, and one bad race, one issue can cost you a chance at racing for a championship, pretty much. So, I mean, that's the way racing is. Some things can't be predicted. You try to do the best you can and put your best effort forth, and I guess Lady Luck and Lady Fate determines the outcome. And unfortunately for Freeman, it's not going to go the way he wants it.
No, but he will be back next year, and I fully expect with a full season under his belt, he'll be ready to contend for wins and a championship again. But as things stand right now, we are coming to next time they cross the line. It'll be 6 laps to go. Alex Vajepru now has a 3.3 second lead over this battle for second position between Goforth and Hall. And don't forget Giannis Turzich, the Bosnian driver, in the 00 this week. He's locked into the playoffs, the only rookie to do so this season. And he is a very stout contender on the road courses, especially. But any given week, he's in this 00. He shines very well, and even when he's not in that car, he has a chance to do well in his own 57. But the focus now is on the battle for second between Goforth and Hall. These two are probably going to fight for the last remaining playoff spot. Well, with Freeman out of the picture, that leaves these two. They're probably, I believe they're both now in a playoff position, but Nikki Martinez is still back there in that 5th position, lurking. Remember, she entered this race ahead of Aaron Hall in the points, but she's running in a lower position than Hall. The difference between them, 2 points, and that could make the difference, honestly, with how close this regular season is brewed.
It's interesting, though, watching this race and see it develop, going back to the one-up regular season finale, which I was in the booth for. It's interesting that it's kind of shaping up the same way. We had a couple guys that we thought were going to make it, had issues in the race that left them on the outside looking in by the end of it. And then you had somebody who got in, just kind of consistent, kind of doing like the 7 is doing right now, having a great run, something happened to somebody else that was already in this case the 91, and suddenly they're looking at making it with 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 the misfortunes of somebody else. Somebody's bad luck is somebody's good fortune.
Absolutely.
The way racing plays out.
Yeah, the Superstar Series regular season finale featured many of these elements as well, albeit in a different stage. But for Cody Goforth, he's got to be thinking. He actually, Ricky Freeman Jr. might be doing him a big favor here by holding up Hall and Turzich, doing whatever he can to stay ahead of those guys, is allowing Goforth now to clear the two teammates from Carter Racing System. Now, Goforth has about a 1.2 second lead over Hall. So Goforth's pretty much cemented himself now into second place, and with it could bring him a spot in the playoffs.
Now, again, what kind of with that 91 in there, what that also does too, because the 91's on fresher tires now than these guys. So right now he's Cody's best friend, but what Cody doesn't need, he doesn't need that 91 to use those fresh tires to start coming after him. He wants that 91 to stay back there and keep being kind of a roadblock to those guys behind him. But so far, Goforth doing what he has to do, and mainly the 3 cars doing what they have to do right now with only 3 laps to go. They're up front and on cruise control and just trying to bring this race home.
Trying to get his record-breaking 5th career win in the 1UP Nitro National Series is Alex Verjepperub, who now has a 3.7 second lead over Cody Goforth. It's not the biggest margin of victory he's had all season. That came at the Indianapolis Road Course, where he had a 17-second margin of victory by the end of that race. But even still, a very impressive performance from Alex, who, if he can hold on to the end of this race, will tie Cody Goforth at the most laps led, and he'll get a bonus point for that. As we now look back at the bottom half of the top 10, Nicky Martinez has critically dropped back to 7th. That could mean her playoff hopes are in jeopardy. Keon Daly likewise in 9th place. That's not good enough for him. The 2 Kings Motorsports drivers could find themselves out of the postseason as Alex Verjepperub takes 2 laps to go.
Yeah, at this point, and having been there this season myself, you're just sitting in the race car. Your crew is giving you the lap times. You really have, for lack of a better way to describe it, you're pretty much bored at this point because there's nobody behind you. There's one lap car I noticed in front of them, but far enough ahead of them that it's not even a factor at this point. And you're kind of bored at this point. You're just trying to make sure you hit your marks, you hit your line, you hit everything you have to. You're good on tires, you're good on fuel. It's just don't do something to take you out of it at this point. That old saying, just don't beat yourself.
Absolutely. And as Alex Verjepperub rounds the final hairpin to take the white flag, hasn't put a foot wrong at this race so far ever since he took the lead. The white flag is out. Got one more lap to go, and as they cross the bridge for the final time, you can see Cody Goforth off in the distance, nearly 4 seconds behind. And at this point, he's going to be content to sit in second and claim his playoff spot. But for Alex Verjepperub, what a statement he's putting on right here. Dominating the second half of this race, probably going to go on to win it, and enter the playoffs with some much-needed momentum for the rest of the season. He's going to need it, especially with only one more road course this season to deal with, as they come through the final set of corners for the final time. The lap car of John McFadden not going to be a factor in Alex's race. Coming into the hairpin for the final time, Alex Verjepperub taking it nice and easy through this corner. He knows he's got this race locked down, and as he comes out the final corner, Alex Verjepperub takes career win number 5 at the Old Spice Speedway. 5th career win for him. Cody Goforth 4.2 seconds off the lead in second place, but he will make the postseason with that second place finish. Aaron Hall, likewise, takes the final playoff spot by 3 points over Nicky Martinez, who for her 7th place is not enough. She will miss the postseason. Along with her teammate Keon Daly, who finished 9th, they will go home disappointed, but for Cody Goforth and for Aaron Hall, mission accomplished. You're in the playoffs now. Now is when the real challenge begins.
Yeah, that was when the real fun starts, and that's where you get your momentum going in. The two of them obviously have, a top 3 finish each, so you take that momentum and you ride it into the playoffs. And going back to the street car for a second, you mentioned the driver. I think you also got to tip your hat to that crew, because that crew, the decision to pit when they did, the pit stop they had, they basically put the pressure on the 01 team, and Cody Goforth kind of cracked today as a driver in the exiting pit road, but hey, the 3 car took advantage of it. They got the job done today.
And with that, the 12-driver field for the 1UP Nitro National Series playoffs is set. We'll be joining you guys next time from the Nashville Super Speedway for race number 19 of the Nitro National Series season. We're hoping you'll join us for that as well, where the playoffs get underway. And for Alex Vergepperud, the momentum is his. He's got a win under his belt right now, and he'll be able to carry that momentum and those 5 extra bonus points a long way into the championship. So, from Ryan Griffin and from myself as well, we say goodbye from the Old Spice Speedway, and a big congratulations go out to Alex Vergepperud, who dominated the second half. Goforth dominated the first half. In the end, they both got what they wanted. Alex with a win, Goforth with a spot in the 1UP Nitro National Series playoffs.